that work. Sorry. So you'll take that language test just in order to get your postgraduate work permit. But you also need that language test when you're applying for permanent residency. When you apply, it's good to gather all your education, your employment, and of course, that language test for yourself and your accompanying spouse. So through the RCIP program, there's over 200 local employers right now, even maybe some employers you're currently working for that are designated already. And of course, employers can still apply to become designated unless they're in the sales and service sector, which may change. We'll just have to wait to see what they say. So they've already done a whole intake last year. They had their first draw come, or sorry, they had their whole first year go through and gave out the allocated nominations. And as someone who works in immigration, I can say we definitely saw lots of invitations come throughout the city and all the different occupations. So if you're here, even if you're working part-time right now with your employer, they're approved, you may consider taking a full-time job offer from them or working with them full-time when you graduate, and you can submit your application through here. You can look at their point grid. Right now, actually, everything is wiped off the website as they're in the midst of kind of redoing their website and so forth. There may be some changes to the points or the knock codes and so forth, but I don't expect a lot of change coming from them. So hopefully soon we'll see the new intake for 2026 open. So if you're graduating this year and you're working in Thunder Bay, this is definitely a program that you should take advantage of looking at. If you're at the university, I'm not sure if the college does it, but I know at the university we have presentations that will come from the CEDC. So as soon as they announce their new year, we will have them come do a presentation, probably in the end of February is what I'm thinking. Of course, it's employer driven. So the employer is the one who's going to register with the CEDC. They're the ones who's going to submit your application, but you do obviously have to gather some documents and help them with that. You do need to have proof of education and proof of language. It is open to everyone. So if you're outside of Canada, you need 1 year of work experience plus that job offer from one of the designated employers. But it is technically open to anyone. And if you did not study in Thunder Bay, then you would need to have that work experience. So just be mindful of that. Next, of course, is the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program. I'll tell you my love-hate relationship with ONIP, I can say. I'll talk about the streams in a second, but first and foremost, ONIP, I have a client right now, like many clients, we received an invitation and applied back in November 2024. And IRCC says we got about 5 months left of processing. So some of my other friends who have gone through RCIP can attest to how quick and nice the processing is, even with Express Entry as well. But the ONIP is a very slow process. And I'll tell you right now that many of my clients will still want to apply to other pools and programs while they wait because they just kind of become impatient with it. However, through ONIP, if you're graduating from the master's or PhD, there is a stream open where you can apply. You don't need any work experience or job offer. You do need to have a certain language requirement and be able to apply. In Thunder Bay, we get the most points for your location. So, of course, Northwestern Ontario is getting the most for the master's and PhD. However, we haven't seen them do a draw for this program in over 12 months now. So we hope to see some draws coming back. You can still click on it, you can still apply to the master stream, but I'm not quite sure what the future will hold for this. I definitely will attest that the job offer streams are definitely the focus for the province. However, this year they have a way bigger allocation than last year. So maybe we'll see some master's draws. They haven't really confirmed yet. But through the job offer streams, there's two streams that you should kind of be mindful of. Of course, those who are studying here in Thunder Bay, the international student stream will allow you to graduate and then you will have a job offer. It can be anywhere in the province of Ontario, but must be in tier 0 to 3. So when we look at express entry and provincial nominee, it has to be skilled work experience. They don't accept any tier 4 or tier 5 work, which can be like front counter, housekeeping, gas attendant, and those kind of lower jobs where you don't really need any education for. Those can be supported through the RCIP, but definitely will never be supported through ONIP or the express entry. So of course, the location of study and work this time will give you extra points through this stream. But this is also employer driven. So your employer will register, give you a job offer number, and then you will use that to create a profile and go into the pool. As you're in these pools, you can update your score if you increase your language ability or if you get more work experience. So it's important to keep those profiles updated while you're waiting for that invitation to come through. If you did not study in Thunder Bay or in Ontario, I should say, you could look at the foreign worker stream. In this stream, you need to have at least 2 years of work experience that matches the knock code of the job offer that you're using. The other thing to be mindful of is you need to be making the median wage. So the job bank wages, you can search that. It will tell you each knock code and what the wage needs to be. And usually for immigration, you need to make the minimum wage. But now with the foreign worker stream, you need to be making that median wage. And sometimes it's a small increase and sometimes it's a significant increase. So before you submit your profile in here, it's always good to confirm, is your employer eligible? Is your wage eligible? And do you have the proper work experience? ONIP is very strict. If you took a month holiday, they would deduct that time and say you don't have 2 years work experience. So be really careful when you're doing that calculation for your time. Express Entry is probably the old grandfather program. It's been around since 2016. It's a nice pathway to PR. It can be a little bit more difficult. The score keeps coming down, 511, 510. So it is nice to see it's coming down a little. However, in my previous days, the scores were in the 300 and 400. Say my clients will wait longer. It's usually get closer to the end of your post-grad work permit time, you're getting enough points for Express Entry. However, it's a nice pathway to PR because you don't need to stay with your job. You don't need anything from your employer. It's based on what you've already completed. So then, if you change provinces, change jobs while you're waiting for your PR, then that doesn't impact it. Where I should actually back up with the ONIP job offer and with the RCIP, you must remain in our province until you get your PR approved. So it can definitely take a little bit more time. Express Entry, you need to have 1 year after graduation. So graduate, work in tier 0 to 3 for at least 1 year. And they go by month to month. So it's not so specific day to day like the ONIP. Then you would be eligible for what we call CEC, which is Canadian Experience Class. Immigration uses a point system, so they're going to rank you as you get older. They're going to decrease your points, but as you get more education or more work experience, you'll increase those points. Your spouse is actually scored as well within your application, so it's a good idea if you have a spouse, they have an education assessment or they do a language assessment as well. And of course, work and some. It's a good thing to have those WES and ICAS assessments. So if you have a higher credential from outside of the country. It's important to kind of look at those three things. Of course, there are other options, which I'll talk a little bit about and share some screen with you guys. But economic pathways to PR are the best for you because they're the fastest. They don't have any financial requirements. You don't have any obligations to family ties or, sponsoring someone and those kind of things. So, of course, you've invested a lot to be here. You should find good skilled work experience after graduation and, of course, apply through these programs. And there's no harm in having your name in all three pools. I often do this with my clients. Or for example, I'll have the husband has he's the principal applicant in Express Entry. We fill it all out. And then we do another profile with the wife being the principal applicant because invitations are given for all different reasons. Location, knock code, education, the Ready initiative, which is part of the ONIP. So lots of different reasons you could see that invitation come. So you need to maximize your opportunities. That's really the big difference now. Immigration in the day, you just need to be eligible. You got invited. But now we have to be eligible. We're getting ranked amongst millions of other people across the country. And then, of course, you have to be selected now through these programs. If you do receive an invitation or a nomination through the province or locally, you usually have about 6 months to gather your documents and apply for PR. I would say the birth certificates and the criminal record checks for the countries you've lived in outside of Canada are probably what takes the longest. So those are two things just to be mindful of on the next steps after you get that invitation. So, things to avoid while you're here in Canada. So, unauthorized representation. Many people come to me and they have told me the worst stories about what people outside of Canada or what their friend or their family member has told them what to do. And they become in these terrible situations where they have what's called misrepresentation. Um, someone like me, I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. If you go to the CICC website, you can search my name. You can see if anyone has complaints against me. You can see how long I've been licensed and everything else. If you're hiring someone and paying them a lot of money to do your fees, you want to make sure that they're actually licensed and that they're in good standing. The other thing to avoid is misrepresentation. So this means when you have given false information. And sometimes it's so simple, people checking the boxes, yes, no, no, yes, no. And I'm like, no, you are in Canada. So you did already apply to come to Canada. And they're like, oh, I guess I did. So something like that could be considered misrepresentation, which is a serious offense when it comes to immigration. So take your time and make sure you're answering those questions properly when you apply. Don't say you have something when you don't, and don't fib on your immigration application. It's only going to cause you issues um, in the future. Undeclared family members is always coming up in my world. So all of a sudden now we have these siblings or these children or the spouse that was not declared when you first came to Canada. That's really hard to overcome. So of course, in all your applications, you should be declaring all the family members. Having those family members back home is actually a strong tie for you. So it's actually a good thing for you to be including when you applied to come to Canada. Letting your status expire is not only expensive, but you have to stop studying, you have to stop working, you have to wait 8 months for us to do something about it and pay a lot of money for that. So please pay attention to the expiry date on your study permit and your work permit. You should all have a permit and you should also have a sticker in your passport, which is called the TRV visa. So that visa in the passport is used to enter Canada. So make sure it's always valid before you leave the country and you're planning to return back in. And always make sure you extend your study permit or work permit before it expires. Many times people will come tell me that they've let their study permit expire or their work permit because they're waiting for the new passport. Just so you know, you can apply for an extension without it and get it started. I always say, no matter what, apply for the extension, give a letter of explanation, and then update it later. Missing the deadline and doing that restoration is going to be really problematic and time consuming for you. If you are a student in Canada, if you stop studying or take a gap in your studies, so I'm going to take a year off and work and then go back to my undergrad program, that will be really problematic for you in the future. So I've had many crying students in my office who took a part-time year in year one. Now they've been here for 4 years, spent $150,000 on tuition, and now they're not eligible for their postgrad work permit. So that's very, very devastating to people. Please make sure that you continuously study. Summertime is your break, usually if you're an undergrad student, but make sure you're not taking any like large gaps within your studies. Also, the work hours, so you can work 24 hours a week as a student, unlimited during your breaks. If you have a closed work permit, you should only be working for that specific employer, and so forth and so on. So make sure you don't work more hours than you're supposed to, because those kind of things will impact you when you have your PR file. Know your eligibility for your spouse. Of course, this makes my head scratch because they keep changing. If you're a student, if you're a worker, what does your spouse or what do you as a principal applicant need for your spouse to continue working in Canada? So be mindful, and I'll share that website with you guys for those who do have spouses. If you're graduating, it may look a little different for their work permit. For example, if you are graduating, you need to have a job in the tier, specific tiers actually, so that your spouse can extend their work permit. And then lastly, be mindful of your language tests and education assessments. As I've already noted, to apply for your work permit when you graduate, you need the language test, and also for PR. So just make sure you're paying attention to those things. An IELTS or CELPIP test would be eligible for valid for 2 years, and an ICAS or WES education assessment is valid for 5 years. Okay. feel like I talked quite a bit there. I'll take a pause here and see if you guys have some questions. Gander, this is actually in Newfoundland for any of you who have been to the east coast of Canada. This is called Western Brook Pond. It's actually was an amazing long hike that I did for 11 hours to get to the top. Just showing you how beautiful Canada can be. Any questions from anybody right now? I'll see. I don't know if you have the chat on. Not yet, no. But if oh, good, then I'll take a second here.
Yeah, Jennifer,
Mhm.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Esther.
Yeah, so my name is Esther. With the postgraduate work permits application, like you said, we're supposed to write the English test.
That's right.
Most of us have written several times, and we are not getting the required results to apply for it. And it's taking much time. Some of us are um, uh, study permits will expire soon. And
Hmm.
so if you continue writing the exams and yet you don't get the required results, what can you do in case your study permit is getting to the expiring time?
And you're talking about the postgrad, right? You've already finished your studies?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So what you need to be mindful of is that 180 days from the day you graduate, because that's how long you have. So 6 months technically to apply for your postgrad work permit. So if your study permit is going to expire, you won't be eligible to extend your stay as a student because you're no longer studying, but you could apply for a visitor permit. So you apply to extend your stay, you stay as a visitor, you show you have enough funds to support yourself. And then once you pass that language test, you would be able to apply for your postgrad work permit. However, you won't be able to work until you see that postgrad work permit approved because you don't get that maintained status. So I would obviously wait till the bitter end, closest as you can, to see if you need to do that visitor permit extension, but you can apply for it. You can apply for it if the study permit is still valid, you pass the language test, you apply. But if not, and then you only have the visitor status, you would have to wait for that work permit to be approved. But you could stay in the country, stop working, and still be eligible for it. Or some people will leave Canada and then apply for the postgrad work permit from outside of the country. But you still need to be mindful of like whatever day is on your degree met letter or your transcript. 6 months from them and is when you've technically finished your studies. So you won't be eligible 6 months plus 1 day, no matter what status you have in Canada.
Okay, so in case the study permit, you have just 3 months, like 90 days
Mm.
to expire, and then you have the 90 days, and then you also have 180 days to apply for the um, a postgraduate work permit.
That's right.
So, so what happened? Like you said, I just want clarification from that one
So then
because
I'd say on day 91, if I haven't applied for a postgrad work permit, I should apply for a visitor visa. So then I can stay in the country. I would stop working because I'm no longer a student. I'm not studying and wait so that I'm eligible to apply for a postgrad work permit and hopefully still get it within another 90 days, right?
okay,
Mhm. Does that
okay.
make
Thank
sense?
you very.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jenny.
Okay, go ahead, Felix.
Hi, my name is Felix. I currently live in Edmonton, Alberta, and then I am in Canada not as a student, but under an open work permit under the Canada-Ukraine authorization for emergency travel.
Okay.
So I'll have my 2 years work experience, I mean Canadian work experience on July 2026.
Mhm.
And I work as a student financial advisor. So I deal with admissions and then student aid applications, band like First Nation, Métis band application for students.
Mhm.
And the NOC is 13100, which is an office administrator.
Administrative.
So
Yeah.
my question is, the role currently is not in demand in Alberta. I've been in the Alberta opportunity stream for over 8 months now. Soon it's going to be like a year. And I'm considering moving to Thunder Bay to pursue the RCIP. Should I
Mhm.
be able to launch a job in any of the colleges like Confederation or Lakehead University? I've been applying for some roles there. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I get a role there. Now, my question is from an immigration strategy perspective, should I get a job there? Do you think I still stand a chance getting my PR through that route? And would you even advise that? Thank you. And I
Yeah.
have a second question, but I'll wait after this one.
So you definitely would be eligible. You have the work experience. So say one of the employers that are on the designated list gives you a job offer in the same knock code, which is one of the approved knock codes that's on our RSIP list, then yes, you would definitely be eligible and be able to go. However, those who have studied and lived in Thunder Bay are always going to rank higher than you. So I don't really know. They haven't shared any data from the year one to say, like, did anybody from outside of Thunder Bay actually get an invitation? Because it was quite competitive, especially in that sales and service. However, not so much in the business section. So, yeah, I definitely encourage you to entertain job offers. You could get that job offer and you could apply to RSIP and you could wait, stay in Edmonton and wait before you actually come to Thunder Bay until you get that recommendation, right? So, um, you could definitely entertain that for sure. But
All right.
how eligible or how likely would it be that you get an invitation? I can't even predict that for my own clients these days. It's hard to say.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question, so I'm currently in the express entry pool,
Mhm.
and my score is about 461, which I know is not the greatest recently based on the news. The reason why my score is down is because I have a spouse who is not an English speaker, so she cannot take the English languages yet because she's Ukrainian and she's taking the language course that they have for people that move over here. So my question is it recommended that I take care of my application? And once I get my PR, file for her, or I don't know, like,
Yeah, so in the
apply for
express
her to
entry
come?
pool, yeah, in the express entry pool, you don't really have a choice. If your spouse is here in Canada, you have to include them with their application within that detail. So if she hasn't done the language assessment, I'd say at least do that because that might be able to give her some points. But yeah, I find that's a huge barrier when it comes to express entry, whereas in ONIP and RCIP, we don't see that issue. Even through ONIP, if you got a job offer, because it sounds like you've been working there for 2 years, you said. So job offer in an Ontario employer would also be able to be eligible for that, right? You guys have to remember with RCIP and ONIP, you need the job offer. You don't physically need to be working for that employer. So you could entertain that as well if you do get hooked up with an employer in Thunder Bay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, Eric, I think you're next.
Hi, Jennifer.
Thank you,
Uh,
Jennifer. Uh,
Yes.
uh, is it Eric or
uh,
you?
Yeah, Eric, you go ahead. Gifty, you'll be next.
okay.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for the insight.
Mhm.
Okay, so just to give you a brief of so I completed a college education in Ontario,
Okay.
and that was last year, and started working in one of the major banks. And my age is 40 and above, and I'm mentioning my age because when you trying to apply for the express entry, it
Mhm.
really affects you in terms of the score if you are 40. And I have my family here. And my first question is that considering my age, I stand to be corrected. It looks as if my express entry score is really affected. So I tend to be focusing more on the ONIP.
Yeah.
And the challenge also I have is that for the major banks, they don't support in terms of immigration in terms of doing this sponsors or employers driven stuff.
Yeah.
So my question is that what will you advise me to do?
It's hard
That's
to say,
that,
Eric. I would say, and most of the people I deal with that
that
work at banks, it's the same scenario. They won't
yeah.
support RCIP, they won't support the ONIP, and we usually go through express entry, or they look at things like the credit union or certain things that are relative to their work experience that are part of the RCIP or ONIP. But I would say it's very common that I see the banks won't be a part of that. I even find some health units won't and so forth. So we wait till we become eligible through express entry. But hey, I'm 41. I get it too. I don't know what immigration's problem is. Probably better than a bunch of 18-year-olds coming to Canada to have more mature people actually out there working. But yeah, it is a huge barrier for sure with the express
Yeah.
entry.
So
It'll be
so my
hard.
second question is should I
Yeah.
be considering looking for another job that will be ready to support? That's the first question. The third question is that my wife is also working in the health sector,
Mhm.
and what could be the opportunity in terms of because her side it looks as if they are ready to do something about it. And lastly, if somebody wants to engage you, if I want to engage you to get a bigger picture of every detail, how do I get to do that within the shortest possible time?
Okay, Eric, and I'll share about connecting with me after this at the end for that.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say. I often will flip it and look at the spouse. What's your spouse doing? What kind of work experience, education do they have? Can they be the principal applicant? Healthcare will always be a priority for all of the programs, RSIP, ONIP, and Express Entry. So when we look at Express Entry, you have to be mindful of those category-based draws, which sometimes come a lot lower in the points. So if your wife is falling into one of the knock codes in the health care, then that might be a really good opportunity to flip your guys' profiles and have her be the principal applicant and have that. And your Canadian education will still give the points and so forth within there, but it's something to be mindful of for sure. Like I said in the beginning, I often will have both candidates, you and your wife, in every profile possible because we just don't know which way the wind's going to blow and why they're going to give nominations out, especially when it comes to ONIP and RCIP. I've had ones that I thought for sure were, in the bucket, and then other ones where I'm like, oh, I'm shocked that you saw the invitation and the coworker there who's been here a lot longer didn't see an invitation. So there's lots of different factors now that are taking into place and a lot more selective immigration, I would say. So yeah, I would definitely be mindful of what your wife is doing and if she can be the principal applicant or if she has a job offer that would match ONIP and the RSIP, and then you guys can play both pools, right? Both times. So it's definitely something to be mindful of.
The last, the second question in terms of changing jobs, is it something we recommend
Yeah, well,
that
I
would be
tell
ready
people
to
you're
support?
investing a lot to be here. So if you're in a job, that's not going to be supported, you're not going to ever get through Express Entry because of the age, they're never going to support you in the other two, then yeah, it's definitely something to consider. I don't tell people what to do, but I like to lay out all your options and let's discuss the pros and cons with both. I usually will find solutions for certain people, which it doesn't always work out for sure. But yeah, I definitely would say think about your wife being principal applicant. If you guys are still not seeing anything happen, then yeah, maybe consider using your work experience, but getting a job offer that would support you with one of the programs.
Okay, so the last one is on the express entry, the language test. I see when you go to the site, they say that it should be LCB. Let's say you are writing the CELPIP, it's SBL 7. The
Yes.
7, is it average or minimum for each category
Ooh,
of
that's a
the
good question. I was like, I always get so confused now with the post-grad work permit. I'm like, it's each one. But let me look.
the express entry says 7.
Yeah,
Is it minimum of 7 or average of 7?
I'm not sure. Let me look for you.
Okay.
It's overall for them. Just open me the Celpip page. Oh, yeah. It's overall for this one. So you have to have an overall of 7. So you could have like a 8, 6, 6, 6, or sorry, 8, 6, 7, 7. That would likely be okay. They'll tell you anyways, as you put into the profile, you put in your score and it's going to say you're eligible or you're not. So I know with the postgrad work permit, it's each band must be that 6 for IELTS or 7. But for express entry, I'm sure it's overall they look at. Oh no, sorry, for all 4 abilities. So depending on your tier too, right?
Oh, it depends on the job tier.
Yeah. So that's why I guess it's fluctuated where I've noticed because I'm like,
So
I
let's
don't
say
know.
a job tier of 1, must it be an average of 7?
It has to be
Oh,
all 4 abilities would have to be 7 for tier 0 or 1. So if it's 2 or 3, it's PLB 5,
oh, okay.
which would be CELPIP 5, CELPIP 7 too. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay. Over to you,
So
Gabe.
I'll wait for the contact and I'll get in touch with you. The name is Eric, so I'll send you a mail probably after that.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Gifty, go ahead. Thank you for being
Hi,
patient.
Jennifer.
Nice
Yeah,
to see you.
Jennifer, I have two questions. One is like, let's say I've finished school and I've applied for the PGWP. I have the response correspondence from the RCIP, IRCC. That gives me 6 months to wait till I get the work permit.
Mhm.
Maybe something happened and I have to quickly go back home and then come back. Can I do that or
Yeah.
I have to
So
wait for the real permit before I can go? Let's
No,
assume I
even
have
on maintained
TRV.
status. Yeah, what you have is called maintained status, and that's a work authorization letter. Just so most of you know, I've noted like they always take longer than that letter. So if the letter expires, you can continue to work till a decision is made, first and foremost. But for you, Gifty, your TRV is still valid in your passport?
Yes.
Yes, then you can travel. And when you come back to Canada, even if the permit still isn't approved, you still have maintained status, so you can still work while you wait for a decision.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question is that let's assume that I've entered OINP, one of the streams, and the criteria, the stream criteria, let's say for the English, maybe there's one I didn't get the required number, but then I've still continued to open the OINP, and maybe my overall score is, let's say, 80. Do I still have to pursue to write the English because there are other factors that they are looking? And if you look at the draws that have been done, I think some of them are even lower than the 80. So assuming I have a total mark of 80, do I still have to write the English, or I can disregard it?
Yeah, so the language test is a requirement for the international student stream. So you have to put in a language test, you need to have it. But for the foreign worker stream, it's actually not mandatory to have a language test. It's kind of crazy, but you get points for having a language test, right? So through international student stream, I believe you must have the specific language, right? So, but it's very similar to what you passed for your postgrad work permit.
Oh, okay. Because for my time, we didn't do the postgraduate.
Oh yeah,
We
sorry.
didn't use yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so it means I have to write it. Otherwise, I won't be selected.
That's right. Yes.
All right.
And like,
Thank
because you
you.
must have put some kind of score in there to get your profile, right? Or did you put nothing?
I put a number there, and then it gave me some number, but that's not what they are looking for. But there are
Yeah.
other ones that I did well, so it's raised the mark to 80. So I'm thinking, oh, if it is 80, then maybe I can just
Yeah.
discontinue with the English. But if
I
it's the
mean, we'll see
requirement,
lots of ready draws come again this year from ONIP. So ONIP is a good one to be in for sure. But I think that, yeah, you should make sure it's accurate. So make sure that you do the language test to match it. Yeah.
okay, all right, thank you.
No problem. Safe travels if you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Kwesi. Sorry, I might be messing this up.
No, you got it spot on. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yes.
So I have two questions. Looks like everyone has multiple questions today. So the first one, um, so I want to explore the opportunity of, getting points for sibling in Canada,
Hmm.
but the sibling, was kind of adopted. So I don't know, certificates, birth certificates doesn't have like similar parents as mine right now. So do you know how I can explore that?
Well, there should be some kind of adoption papers that would show that you both had the same parents, right?
Yeah, it's been so long he doesn't even know where to find those papers.
Yeah, I would something like that, or getting an affidavit done, right? With a lawyer saying that this person I'm saying is related to this person, and you can use that to include it because they will question that for you for sure. Like,
Right.
so you get the invitation and them say, we're not giving you that 15 points, or we're withdrawing it from you.
Yep.
So make sure you have either an affidavit or I often just have both siblings' birth certificates show the same parents' names on the back, and then we don't really have
Right.
issues.
Yeah.
Also to think about like when you came to Canada and if they are a temporary resident, if they came to Canada, did you guys put your half sibling on your family information form? Because if,
No,
yeah,
that
so
was
like, that could
that was
also be
awesome.
problematic for sure.
Right. Okay. The other question though is so if you happen to have a child in Canada and you're on your express entry, do you have to add your child as traveling with you together?
Yeah, they will include it in the proof of funds. Like you want to make sure, which is like, an extra $5,000 a year if you needed proof of funds for your PR.
Mhm.
But they don't, with the profile, we don't give any family members. But when you actually submit the PR, you will show them, but you'll say they're Canadian. So you wouldn't pay
Right.
any fees for them and they wouldn't be like assessed or anything in the application.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, I think you're next, Emmanuel.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I wanted to ask, do you necessarily have to have work experience in the course you studied, whilst probably in school to apply for your RCIP or any of the pools?
No, you actually don't at all. So, skilled work experience is important, and the knock codes listed on the CDC website are important for RCIP. So often I find, I'd say, because I've worked in education a long time, many times they're not working in that field. And I'll tell you a story. When our NIP program opened, there was a boy at Lakehead. He was an engineering student in his second year, and he worked at a bakery, and he worked full time in the summer, part time during the year. He actually ended up having enough hours working 2 years part time to apply before he even graduated, right? So he had the work experience. So he ended up getting his PR in third year and saved himself some money. It was kind of nice. So be mindful of your part-time work and your part-time jobs. If they're participating in RCEP, it's important to talk to them, right? Like you don't need to be working full-time. You need a full-time job offer and either the work experience or to graduate locally. So just keep that in mind while you guys are kind of thinking about PR.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Lawrence, I don't know if I missed you, sorry. And Gifty, you don't have another question, eh? You're good? Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, I know I'm taking up a lot of your guys' time. I'm sure you have other agenda. Lawrence, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a few questions. So first of all, I want to find out if is it possible for a single candidate to apply for two streams in OIMP? Say,
Yes.
okay, like master stream and then employer job offer
Yes.
stream.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. My second question is that I stay in Thunder Bay, but I work outside Thunder Bay. Do I qualify for RCIP?
So it's about the employer, right? So the employer has to be approved by the CDC. I always say tell them to reach out to them. For example, the mine here, they have a location in Thunder Bay, but most of the workers are actually in Fort Francis working. They can have an approval. However, Nomad Catering, they live on Roslyn Road. They're outside city limits. They're not approved. So I always say tell your employer to talk to the CDC, but if the employer itself is not located at all in Thunder Bay, then no, then it wouldn't be eligible.
Okay. And then my last question, I just I heard you say I'm not so sure if I heard you right, but did you say if you work part-time? When I was in Lakehead, I was working part-time with this company. Does that do I get points or hours for the time I work there?
For RCIP, that work experience will count, yes. But for express entry, they don't count any work until you graduate. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then for OIMP?
ONIP, the foreign worker stream, I guess you could use work experience as a student. There's no reason. It could be outside of Canada even, right? It just has to be gained within the last 5 years and have the certain hours, the right wage and everything else, right? So I technically, yeah, ONIP could be student work too.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Thanks. I would like your contact too. So once you give it
Yeah.
out, I'll take it.
Sounds good. And over to you next, Kay.
Thank you, Jennifer. I've got two questions. So I cannot put one in the chat room, but you haven't reached that.
Sure. Forgot all about the chat. Sorry that.
Right. So if you have ONP application and in progress,
You just gotta stay patient. I know. I got somebody he's like, it's been 8 months. We're in decision in progress, and some of my other clients have moved forward. Some of them haven't. We keep asking ONIP for an update. There's not really much you can do. I write to them for sure, like send a web form to ONIP and say, can I have an update? And if they say they're still working on it, then just be patient. Like I said, ONIP is the slowest process, but you got that nomination, you definitely don't want to waste it. So just start preparing your PR stuff while you're waiting for that.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you. I have a second question. So in support of a spousal open work permit, you have a job offer. So you have the offer letter, you have a job description, but that job description does not indicate the knock. Is it for IRCC to determine the knock based on the job description, or are you to get a specific letter from your employer that states the knock?
So it says you should have it on here, or I guess that's how to apply when you're applying separately. So it says make sure you have no, inside Canada that's working. So it says here should be a letter from the principal applicant's employer that shows the employment details, occupation description, the knock code,
Okay.
or a copy of the letter of employment. So my clients will say, "Oh, it says or," and I said, "Just put the knock code on it, man." So many spouses are getting refused all the time, and it's so slow right now that I say, just tell your employer to put the knock code, and then I have had no issues once the knock code is on.
Fantastic.
Nice
Thank
thing about this is they don't say it has to be a permanent job. It has to be 30 hours a week. There's no hour requirement. There's no, like, a lot of my clients have contracts. I'm like, you should still include your spouse. Even sometimes the contract has ended by the time they're processing this work permit and it's still been fine. So as long as you have a letter of employment with that knock code, and of course, this is you, the graduating student. So it's nice if your spouse is working and has a great job, but their employment is not at all applicable for their spousal open work permit.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to share this link. It's a good link to have, just in case they change those knock codes too. It's good to kind of see them in there. Okay, I'm going to share contact information at the end. I'll give you guys my little spill on that. Okay, Lawrence K, I got that there. And English requirement for someone who's teaching. So it just depends on the stream of the PR program that you're applying. I mean, many of the programs to be eligible are the same requirements you needed to start school. So I hope at least if many of you will have the 7 CLB, right? But I know this one band does mess people up. I was going to mention too, Esther, that I find my clients will do better on CELP than IELTS, or sometimes they like one over the other. So if you've been trying one test, maybe try the other test, but of course you may have already done this. So sorry if it's not good advice. Over to you, Emmanuel.
Yeah, so I want to find out, right, if I'm working probably full-time on campus, right, since I'm a student, and also am I also allowed to work within the 24 hours a week outside
That's right.
campus with a full-time? Yeah,
Yeah,
if
that's
I'm
right.
allowed
So
to do that.
your on-campus work does not have any limit and it does not impact the off-campus work.
Oh, okay. And if that's the case, does it count when I apply for the RCEP thingy? When I
Yes.
apply for my, oh, okay.
Yeah, so work experience as a student on campus, off campus, part-time will count. You just have to kind of keep track of your hours when you're working different hours each week. But you definitely could be eligible as a student if you have the work experience and the job offers the same knock code.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Hello,
Michael?
Jennifer.
Oh, sorry, Fufu, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Jennifer. Yeah,
Hi.
I met you in the Layhead University before. Yeah. So I want to share with you is now I'm graduate in last December. So I
Congratulations.
applied the PGWP. Yeah, thank you. But for my spouse, I have to apply the spouse open work permit. Uh, let's say I have the contract job, like 6 month contract job, and tier 0, 1, and 3 for selected job. Is it eligible to apply for my spouse open work permit with a contract job?
Yeah, so contract doesn't matter, but just keep in mind that it's not only it's tier 0 or 1 and specific 2 and 3s, right? So not all 2 and 3s will apply. They have to fall into the lists that are here. But if you're working
Okay.
in 0, 1, woohoo, you don't have to worry about it. But as I mentioned, there is no requirement for it to be full-time or permanent. So the contract job with the knock code letter of employment would be good for your spouse. Yeah.
Uh, because let's say my contract is just a 6 month, the
Mhm.
PGWP, the processing time is
I
more
know.
than 6 months.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
gave that example. I gave that example that that happens many times where people apply and their contract's already finished. They're like, "Oh, what's going to happen?" The spouse is usually still approved, right? But I would say lots of times we see spouse open work permits refused with the applicant, without the applicant, for all sorts of different reasons. One time I saw a refusal saying, "You did not include your bank statements with the pay stubs." It's like, "What? Never ever have I been told to have bank statements." So just know that they have had lots of changed feelings. I see lots of different outcomes coming from spousal open work permit when I do the same thing each time. But with your contract job, as long as it falls into one of the eligible knocks, or tier, I should say, that you should be eligible.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now over to you, Michael.
Hi, Jennifer, quick one. This is just a clarity, right? I heard somewhere that after you've been nominated in your PRCing process, you can bring your spouse or your family. Is it true?
Yeah, so usually if you are nominated for permanent residency, even if your spouse is not in Canada, you're going to include them in your PR file because at that point, you're just going to give documents and pay fees for them. They're not being assessed on any other merits. However, for some reason, like for example, my spouse's misrepresentation, I can't include them, then you would apply for PR and then sponsor them later on to come join you. But 100%, if you get your invitation, spouse is here or not here, you're going to include them and your children, even if they don't want to come to Canada right away, just because they're eligible for PR. And it's hard to get PR. So the dependents should definitely take advantage of when you get that invitation.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that while the process is still ongoing, I can
Oh, I
actually
see what you
invite
mean.
them to come.
Yeah, yeah. So depending on the stream, usually they would be eligible for open work permit, right? While they're
Okay.
waiting for the PR. But sometimes I find the visa offices are so slow, we'll see the PR go through before that work permit.
Thank you.
Not so much in Ghana, though. They're pretty fast there.
You know, right.
Okay, did I miss anybody? I saw one more in the chat here I'm going to answer. So full-time co-op work experience tier, zero job, does this work experience count? Okay, so first and foremost, when you do express entry, if you do your profile, it's going to ask you, were you a student while you're working? So just answer that question, yes or no. Some programs, for example, the federal skilled trade worker may count that work when you study and for co-op. But usually express entry, Canadian experience class, no, it will not count any of that work that you're a student. You'll see you won't get points for that. But RCIP and ONIP can count that work experience. So you did have valid work status to be able to work full time during that time for co-op. So I always say put all of the work into the chart, let the systems do the math and decide what is going to give you points and what's not going to give you points. Did you have another question, Michael?
Oh no, sorry. Let me put my hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jennifer, I have a question. Can I come in?
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I noticed something. I needed your clarity on that. When you look at the tier code, zero, as we just looked at, the 0 and 1 need an average paper of English of 7, whilst the 1, 2, 3, so 2 and 3 need a lower grade. So we're
5.
having a discussion, and someone was saying that let's say there are certain jobs which, like my role, with kind of licensing requirements and all those stuff, you can put yourself, and what you do can put yourself under, let's say, tier 1. And you can as well be in tier, let's say, 2. Now, because of, let's say, if you are not adding the licensing section of it, because of the English proficiency, to be able to get more score, is it better to be in the tier 1 or just to be, let's say, in the tier 2 or 3? Just
Yeah,
to get
again,
more distance, because
yeah.
the tier 2 and 3 gives you, if you, let's say, you have, let's say, 7 or 8, it gives you more marks. But I don't know if you can give me
The
some
tier
clarity
0
on
to 3 doesn't give you any extra points. So it doesn't matter what tier you fall into. And especially with ONIP, it doesn't matter the knock codes and the categories. So if you're working in health, transportation, construction, like those kind of things will impact it. But that won't matter. It's really just your eligibility. And of course, the higher your language test is, the more points you're going to get within your profile. So I would obviously shoot for the best of it. But if you're in a tier 3 position, you know that you have a lower eligibility. That's what you need, right, for the program. But for the knock code, I always say talk to your employer because sometimes they have very picky about what knock code they want to use, and look at the wage. Because if you were saying, oh, I'm in tier 1, and then you see the wage is $47 an hour, like, oh, I'm not making that much money. You better be using the tier 2 job, right? So it's all those kind of things. And that's the discussion you need to have with your employer. I say some employers know nothing about knock, so you should spend some time, find a couple ones that look like it, bring them to your employer. But some of them are very familiar with it, especially here in Thunder Bay. Lots of them are playing the immigration programs right now. So, yeah.
Okay. So that it actually also goes with the wage.
Yeah. Yeah. The knock code, because that you have to be making the wage. So I'll show you that right now. So if you go to
Okay.
Broad Bank, wages. So if we go here, for example, I'll just say cook for a good example. I'm a cook right now. So you're looking at my knock code. You need to go down to find what region are you working in Canada. So Northwestern Ontario, I need to making 1760. But if I'm using the foreign worker stream, I need to make $18 an hour.
Okay.
But then if we say, for an example, like a manager, something, let's pick a nice
Okay.
zero code. Like this will make a big difference from going from your one. So here we're making 24 to 38, right? It's a huge increase. So always be mindful. What I find as the tiers get higher, the wages will also get higher. So it's something you need to make sure you're actually making that wage to be able to say you're working in that knock code.
Okay. Yeah, able to share the link in the chat?
Yeah, I was just going to do that. You beat me
All
to
right.
it.
Thanks.
Okay, next one, T-Bay resident. Off you go.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
I have a quick questions. For the job offer for the spouse, I mean, if I want to apply for my spouse SOWP, can I use my job offer letter to apply for the SOWP, or
Yeah,
do I still need to attach the payslip?
I always get both. So I give the job offer letter with two recent pay slips, but to be honest, the letter of employment is what is required on the website. It was like an old thing that used to have to give two pay slips, so I just kind of still do it. But it's really the letter of employment's what's required. And proof of relationship. If you're not applying together, make sure you put marriage certificate, your work permit, and your employment.
So that means I have to work a few months later, then I can apply for the spouse open work
Wait,
permit.
no, like I said, if you only have the letter of employment or the job offer, that's all that's required. So, and then
Oh,
you can
okay.
always update later with web form and give some pay stubs if
Oh,
you
I
want to.
see.
I just like to give supplementary, but if you're not working there yet, you just have the job offer, you can give that.
All right. So that means is I mean anywhere of the Canada, any province, is it?
That it doesn't matter. Yeah, you
It
can.
doesn't matter, right?
Mhm.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
federal, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
And Gifty, do you have another question for me?
Yes, Jennifer. So I just want to find out. Let's assume that I have a new job offer, which is different from what I studied. And so let's say I'm doing the RCIP and I'm to provide experience, and that the role is new now. So I have zero experience in the new role. But then I have had a chance to work in other places whilst in school before I completed, and even a contract job after school, and then it ended. So those experiences, if the new role has different, let's say
Job.
community ambassador, and then the other role I did was in administration, they don't tally. So those experiences they are looking for, because I've worked there, do I have to let go and then just put in the community one when it's due, or I can add those experiences to it?
So it just depends. If you find it's related work experience, they'll count it. But don't forget that it doesn't matter what you graduated from Lakehead. As long as you graduated within 18 months, you're eligible for that exemption. It doesn't have to be related to the job offer. So until 18 months passes from your graduation, you can use that exemption. But after that, then you would need 1 year of work experience. It has to be related. It doesn't have to be the same knock code like ONIP, but RCIP, they've refused quite a few, saying, we don't feel this work is the same and so forth. So I find it's always better if it's the same job with the work experience and the job offer. But you have 18 months from graduation, so you should still have a little bit of time left on that exemption.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to take one more question and then I'm going to get back to this before I take all your time. I don't even know how much time I have, Fred. Sorry. Ikao, go ahead.
Jennifer,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, please, I want to know, I have a open spousal work permit, which
Okay.
expires in the next 6 months. If I want to renew it, I work with an automobile shop. What is the procedure to, I mean, the what is the procedure, I mean, as to how to, renew it or extend it?
Yeah, so you would have to get like an LMIA or an invitation for PR and apply for PR before that expiry to be able to extend on your own. Or like what's happening with your spouse because you're tied to their status right
Yeah,
now, right?
currently my wife also graduated from school. Now
Okay. So
also look.
both of your permits are going to expire like 6 months?
No, for her, she
I see. I see. She's going to graduate and apply.
no,
Yeah.
not
Okay.
graduated, but
Yeah.
she, I think, okay, so our visa expires at the same time. So what's the procedure?
So she's going to apply for post-grad work permit. If she has that employment, she'll include you and you'll have an open work permit extension. If she's not working and doesn't meet that requirement, by the time your current open work permit expires, you'd have to change your status to a visitor. And then once she meets the requirements, you could change back to a worker. But of course, in my experience, that's really tough because you don't get the time. I would almost submit an extension with a letter of explanation and hope that within that processing time, she finds the employment. Yeah, it's a little bit iffy, but technically you wouldn't be eligible unless she has the job, like I said in that link that I just shared, or until one of you guys get the PR invitation, apply for PR, or maybe the automotive shop does an LMIA for you, or you apply for PR with your job offer in the automotive, which was a part of the RCIP last time.
Okay, please let me go ask another question again. She has already applied for the postgraduate work permit. She graduated in December, and so she just applied for the postgraduate work permit. Can she, I mean, go ahead and then uh, apply for me as well?
Yes, so you would do your own application if she's already submitted hers, but she needs that employment. So if she's got the letter of employment with the proper tier or knock code, then you can now do your extension, but you're just going to do it on your own, include proof of relationship, show her submission confirmation, and show her employment.
Okay, and then the last question, please. With my automobile work that I do, can they decide to, help me with my visa, process apart from
They
my
can, but I'll tell you right now that it's getting tougher and tougher for employers. Like I spend lots of time working on LMIAs and I don't even want to do them anymore because it's just so much work and they're always refused. Government is not really working well. So the job offers and the recommendations coming through ONIP, Express Entry, and RCIP are your best bet, right? Sometimes you can get a recommendation within 6 months, right? Faster than we would see anything else happen. Yeah.
And then the last one, please. Can I also then decide to, apply for, I mean, a college and then, decide to uh, get, a trade skill?
For
And
sure.
yeah, I want to know, could it be possible that I apply to a college and then go for a skill trade and then later maybe extend my visa through education? And how long does it take to, get your visa approved for going for a certificate program, maybe certificate in welding? I mean, how long does it take for a visa?
So you have to look at the IRCC website for processing time. So it shows you like where are you applying, what are you applying for. So you just say in Canada for a study permit. They're actually prioritizing them because you need to have that study permit approved now to start new schools. So you'd have to show proof of funds, you'd have to get accepted, probably have a language test, all those things. But well, you could go to school and then based on whatever program that is, you could be eligible for your own open work permit, post-grad work permit when you finish too. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate your answers and have a lovely evening.
No problem, you too. Okay, everybody, you're probably getting sick of my voice now. I just wanted to show you quickly with Express Entry. We kind of look at who you can apply and what kind of programs. So the Canadian Experience class is really the bread and butter right now. If you only have work experience from outside of Canada, you're actually not eligible for Express Entry. So the Canadian work experience is really important to them. Through here, you can use their CRS, their ranking system to see what your score is if you're kind of eligible and say, oh, what if my IELTS went up or what happens when I turn 30 and so forth, and play around and kind of have an idea. And just know it's not a perfect science. Sometimes it's just a little bit off when you actually do your profile. And I'll share this link with you guys too so you can see CRS calculator. But as I mentioned, those category-based draws, there might be something that you're interested in. I don't know if they talk about the category-based draws here. No. So these are the category, and I'll show you kind of the difference in the points in a second. But if you're working in these specific fields, so if you're a French language speaker or healthcare, science, technology, trades, agriculture, education, you will probably have a lot lower express entry draws than what we're seeing at that 510, 511 score right now. So you can always say, okay, I'm actually working in healthcare. Right now, I'm a dentist. Oh, yeah, I'm on the list. So you can check to see if your occupation is actually on this list. And just know you still need to meet express entry. So you still need to have 1 year of Canadian work experience in total, but you only need at least 6 months of work experience in these specific knock fields. So a good example is this. I have lots of people who come to Canada, they take Masters of Ed, and they're working in the community, sometimes just part-time on call. But they taught back home for many years. So their work experience here gets them eligible for express entry, but that work experience back home makes them eligible for the category-based draws. So just make sure you're including everything within your profile when you do that. And then of course I'll share this category-based thing so you guys can look at these too. Those ones are kind of the nice ones for Express Entry. So let's take a look what's going on with Express Entry right now. If we look at the previous rounds of invitations, so invitation was just yesterday. Of course, my client had 508 points. It's so disappointing. But 509, so you can see 511, 515, 520. The general ones are starting to come down a little bit. I mean, I remember back in 2016, we had 75 points, you would get invited. It was such a good time. So you'll see what the programs are here. Just so you know, ONIP does not really go through express entry. They go through non-express entry. So these are not part of those draws. But you'll see, for example, let me find like healthcare. So this is one of those category-based draws. You'll see the score was only 462 compared to the 533 for the regular draw. So they come down quite a bit. And you'll see even the trades was 505 for those working in technology and different things like that. So I don't know if anyone's interested in this, but I'll share the rounds of invitations link too. Right. It's just kind of nice to see what's going on. Through ONIP, of course, I talked about your eligibility, but just remember through the foreign worker, the employer portal, it's like they do everything themselves, and there is some requirement. So the employer needs to be located in Ontario. They have to be making a certain revenue. They need to have at least 3 Canadian citizens or permanent residents there working. So there is some criteria for them to be aware of as well. Here you can look at the nomination updates, so you can see they made their allocation at the end of the year. Lots of the job offers were really used in the last year, and you can kind of have an idea. People will go crazy about the scores in ONIP, driving me nuts about it. But to be honest, invitations will come because of your location, because of your level of education, because of your knock code, level of English, different reasons all the time. So try not to get too caught up in the scores in ONIP. Just making sure you're in the pool is what's most important. And I'll share this updates page in case you guys want this as well. Sorry for so many chats. I talked about the open work permit ready for spouses. What is this here? This is post-grad work permit. I think everybody, I hope you know if you're eligible for a post-grad work permit. But if you're at a college, you may want to just review to confirm that your college program is on here. Of course, I talked about RCIP right now. Of course, they don't have any information on the website. They showed us 400 applications from employers, 358, 175 employer, 900 applications. Wow, 475. Wow, that's pretty good. 831 people got PR through RCIP last year. That's good. They just published this. This wasn't up actually earlier. I just looked at this. So now I bet you they'll have their new stuff coming up very soon here. So this is the first time we've seen the numbers on here. So that's actually really good. So keep an eye on this. Any day, I'm sure we'll be updated with the 2026 information for this year's RCIP. Processing time is here. So people ask me how long for work permits, still 228 days, just so you know, very slow for processing. And I think that's all my links and all my information. I took way longer than I expected with you guys today. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm sure it can be a very boring topic for many of you. Happy to stay on if there's a couple more questions. Oh yeah, I guess the very important thing, everyone, how do I reach you, Jennifer? So I've actually just took a leave right now, just so everybody knows. I've been off just having a little bit. Oh no, I wanted the current slide. I just had surgery, so I actually have quite a high caseload right now. I probably won't be accepting any new clients until March, just being realistic with you guys. I do have an hourly fee, so if you just wanted to have a consultation and check things over, check your application or, answer IRCC together, my hourly fee is close to $350 an hour. And then I usually charge about $5,000 for my PR application. So it's usually about 4,000 plus HST, and that does not include your IRCC fees. It's a little bit cheaper for single applicants compared to family applicants, but just so you know, I'm very booked right now, so I need a little bit of time. But if you're not in a rush and you want to connect with me and start looking at this stuff in March, then definitely feel free to send me an email here, and happy to do so. Hopefully you guys learned something today. Hopefully you found this was helpful. Again, thank you again for sharing your time with me. It was my pleasure to be here with your prayer group, and hope you guys stay warm tonight.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.